Welcome to Keep It Local. My name is Justin, and this is
Pam Fender.
And we are here with Chad Humphrey, also known as
Rocket Local Chad.
Rocket Local Chad. So we appreciate you being on the podcast today. This is kind of like our return. We've been out of commission for a little
Hiatus.
while. We've been on hiatus for a little while. So you're our first guest back in the building, and we're excited to talk with you about something that a lot of people have questions about. You know, and
Lots of questions.
You would be the expert in this area. So just tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got involved in the mortgage industry.
So I started in '98, and what was interesting is I ran a photo shop and a photo tour up in Seattle. Where you stand behind the little life ring that says, Seattle Harbor Tour, Seattle, Washington, and get your picture taken.
Yes.
Okay.
And I was getting lunch at the Red Robin at the end of the pier.
Red Robin, that's a old school one kind.
Yeah. And the bartender and I became friends just from me going in there and whatnot. She got into mortgage. She said, Chad, I think you would really like this industry. You should come and just call with me back when people answered their phones.
Oh, yeah.
And so I'm like, all right, I'll go up there, with you. And so I started making some phone calls and found that it was rewarding to help people. And back then, of course, with Wild Wild West, there wasn't a whole lot of regulations and rules. It was basically, if you could fog a mirror, you could get a loan. Stated income, stated asset, all that fun stuff. And I've seen wild markets since then. And here we are today, 26 years later?
Yeah.
Wow, 26 years.
And in the industry. And so I've gone from, independent retail mortgages to independent mortgage broker, and now over to RocketMortgage and on their local executive team, just because I see really where Rocket is going in the journey with the consumer, the client.
Yeah.
And they are really understanding that you need to meet that client in their journey. And in fact, if you can meet them before they even know they need you and get that thank you is really what drives business.
Absolutely.
Well, I definitely think in Charlotte, and most people don't know this, is that relationships are kind of key because we're so transitional in Charlotte. And so the reason that me and Justin put this together is to provide the community with local choices, because what we find out is that people don't know people here.
Yep.
So that's kind of how this podcast was created, was introducing people to the personalities, and sometimes through the camera you can actually say, I really like this person, I'd like to connect with them. And so that's really our mission with what we're doing here. So with that being said, you just moved to Charlotte. Was it been 2 years?
2 years now from Colorado.
Yeah.
And finally getting used to the humidity. The joke around the house is, so Chad, how many shirts is that today?
Yeah.
Because I'm one that likes to just be like, all right, I'm going to go out and plant that plant, or I'm going to go out and water this. And 5 minutes later, you're drenched.
Yeah.
It's different.
But
Definitely different than Colorado.
getting used to, the seasons are the same, similar. We have, a lot of people think like, oh, Colorado, it snows there all the time. And, when you get down into Denver and stuff, it does snow, but it's gone the next day. Most of the time, it's like this weather. Sunny, clear. The only difference is in Colorado, you might have 7 or 8% humidity. And out here, you have,
I love it.
More.
My husband thinks I'm crazy, but I love it.
Yeah.
I love the weather.
Oh, it's great out here.
Yeah, I definitely love it. So what about the market here made to choose Charlotte?
So actually, my now wife is the one that chose Charlotte. She wanted a change, and she decided, I'm going to go visit Charlotte. We had listened to Stephen Furtick at Elevation Church quite a bit in Colorado. The small church that I was working at and doing armed security at was amazing. And so she asked her mom, hey, you want to go check out Charlotte? And they came out here and both went back home under contract on homes, having to list their homes.
Wow.
And at that time, market was close to 8%.
Yeah.
And I thought, what? I'm going to take my Jeep. I'm going to go play in Moab for the summer because, this when I were going to have a chance to really break free of work.
Yeah.
And then I came out to visit, found love. We fell back in love and got married, and here we are. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. So the market in Denver is, still fast and growing. The market out here is even faster growing. Denver is a very mosh pot of, people moving from California, Washington. There is some East Coast, but up here, it's a lot of people coming from Jersey, Philadelphia.
We still
New
have,
York.
I can't remember the numbers now, but I had them last month, but the numbers are significant. Like they have it down to the day. I think it was last month, like 14 people a day moving to Charlotte.
Yeah.
Yeah. But still our market, by the way, I mean, if we want to talk about it in general, is there's still inventory out there. And some people are like, I don't understand why the market's a little slow, but what they didn't understand was that your winter market homes that were priced and probably not priced correctly for the winter market are still sitting on the market in some cases, creates the extra inventory. If our market was continual, where everything sold as quickly as it was, we wouldn't have a market here in Charlotte because of the relocation. So, but I mean, why don't you tell us about like those phone calls you're getting when people are talking about mortgage? Because it definitely seems like they want the information, right? But
well, the media has a very good grip on fear right now, with people saying doom and gloom and the world's going to end, and the markets are horrible. But a lot of people say, "Oh, it's a great time to buy." And people are like, "Of course, it's a great time to buy. You're in mortgage. You're always going to say that." And so what I say is back it up by data. And I pulled a report this morning of what are the main markets in Charlotte or in South Carolina and North Carolina, and what are they anticipating to grow over the next 5 years? And it's 5 to 6% a year. Yeah. And that's healthy. Right. You don't want 19, 20% a year. That sets up an adjustment. And we're not going to see that because people are so well qualified. We're not going to have the loss of homes like we did, say, in 2008. Right. And so what I tell people right now is look at the data. And when you look at rent, and they say, rent, your payment's 100% interest. Yes, interest is a little bit high. And I would definitely say stay away from the people that say, marry the home, date the rate, because that was such bad advice. Because now that people bought based on what they could afford on a 2-1 buy down or a 3-1 buy down is now coming due, and they can't afford that fully amortized payment. Even though they could on paper, they can't with their lifestyle. And so what I tell people is like, you really need to dig into the education. Right.
But now let's go back up. So Charlotte in general, we've had a deficit for housing for a long time. So you're like, why is there so many apartments, or why is there so many townhomes? A lot of those townhome properties or land used to be set up for just single until we started becoming in this deficit. And that's when they allowed, more high density. So with that being said, let's go back to your answer. So when someone's renting, and yes, rent might be cheaper than buying, right? Yep. When the current interest rate, you said it's 100% interest. Why don't you explain that a little bit more for the people that are renting? Because I don't think they 100%.
Yeah. So when you look at your interest rate and you look at your mortgage payment, you have an interest rate, and part of that goes to interest, part of that goes to principal. When you're making a rent payment, all of that goes to your landlord. And then that goes to his principal and his interest and his wealth. Right.
So if his property goes up in value, what does that do for the renter?
Potentially your rent's going to go up. Right. Because he's going to be paying more in taxes. He's going to be paying more in insurance.
So if your house goes up in value and you decide to sell, what happens?
Well, you get to use that equity to continue to build, the generational wealth. I mean, equity can be passed down to kids, family members. A lot of people, when you think of, there's a lot of people that think I'm either going to rent a 2-bedroom, 2-bath apartment, or I want to buy a 5-bedroom house that's waterfront on 2 acres. And the people that own those homes that are 5 bedrooms on waterfront, that wasn't their first home typically.
No, it was
They usually started from going from a 2-bedroom apartment rental to maybe a 2-bedroom townhouse to maybe a 3-bedroom house to then the 5-bedroom home. Right. And so you need to look at, okay, well, if I can take what I am living in now and convert that to a home that I own, let that interest grow. And then in 2 or 3 years, take that equity and buy the house that I want, let that grow, take that equity and buy my firearm home.
Right. in talking about this, as people are relocating to our area from other markets and the market prices are different, what I find interesting is everybody's like, oh, this one neighborhood, this neighborhood's beautiful, and oh my gosh, these houses are so expensive, I can't afford them. And they're like, what do all these people do for a living? And I'm thinking, well, if you actually go back when these people bought these houses, some of these houses were only $350,000 10, 15 years ago.
Yep.
And some of these people just said, I'm not moving. You got your lower interest rates. They got the cheaper houses. They're like, yeah, I'm good. Like, I'm holding almost. And it almost kind of Vegas style, right? Like, it's like I'm playing the cards, and the cards are don't move because your house is going on so much in value, because you said the future's 5 to 6. But over the last 5 years, let's not use this year because I haven't really done the data on that, it was almost an average of a 10% inflation or equity on a lot of the homes that were happening. So in 5 years, you could have made a pretty good chunk of money on buying that house at $250. So that is where you use the word generational wealth. That is where it comes from. Let's just talk about one thing, and I don't want to get too far in the weeds on this, but I've seen some of the reports come back and say that people's family who rented before them, it's almost like the whole college. They didn't go to college. The offspring struggle to go to college. But even with renting, when people are renters in general and they stay renters and the family dynamic traditions have been renters, that's a real struggle, and that creates kind of almost that poverty line, right? Because when they don't know how to buy a home, and there is fear, I had fear too of buying my first home.
Yep.
When you're at that point and you're like, well, my parents are renters, I'm going to rent, they don't seem to understand that building of equity. They just, in some cases, they feel like, well, that person, they just got lucky, or that person, someone gave them some money. Because I think people don't realize that there's a lot of options in buying a home.
There's one thing that I want to take a step back from that. I think they think they need to have 20% down to buy a home.
Yeah.
And they don't realize that you could buy a home with as little as 1% down.
Yeah.
And in this market where there's some extra inventory, you can usually get a seller to pay your closing costs.
Mm-hmm.
So you're talking about buying a home for probably the same amount as 1 month's rent plus a security deposit.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't know that.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you look at Rocket and what Rocket has done from creating this digital journey, and why Rocket is the #1 mortgage lender by volume in North Carolina and South Carolina, a lot of people don't know that. A lot of people think, oh, they're just a call center, but they are beating the competition by a pretty wide margin when you look at the numbers. The reason being is they start with a product called Rocket Money.
Okay.
And I would recommend everybody that's watching this to go get Rocket Money. It has nothing to do with mortgage, anything like that. It looks at all your subscriptions and says, hey, we can lower your monthly payment on this subscription. I didn't even know I had that subscription. Let's get rid of that. There's $15 a month. Hey, let's talk about budgeting. How many people took budgeting in high school?
We didn't.
No, there's not even budgeting in high school now.
Yeah.
And so the system is designed to let's get them in debt, keep them in debt, and then we, can kind of own them. And the way to break free of that is to really get the data, not from the news, but from people that truly care about the journey of the homeowner. And Rocket has that down.
And so let's move forward on that. So people that are in this situation where they're renting, some of it's because of credit too, right? Because they feel like you have to have a certain credit score. So do you want to kind of talk about that? Yeah,
so when you look at credit, first of all, credit is a game that is played by a lot of the big creditors. Credit is all about, can you get yourself in debt?
Yeah.
And can you manage it?
Yeah.
Because somebody that has $500,000 in the account doesn't use credit, has a low credit score, than somebody that has no money in the account, has a lot of credit, understands how to juggle it, understands how to make that percentage, work. So there's a couple things I want to say about that. One is, if you don't think you have great credit, you really can only be 30 to 60, maybe even 90 days away from getting a great credit score. And, trying to figure that out on your own is tough.
Right. And I think to your point, planning. I think a lot of people don't realize that planning. Don't say, hey, I want to buy a house today, and then say, okay, now I'll pull my credit. Because I think the conversation with you needs to do almost 60 to 90 before you even think about buying a home.
Yep. And what's interesting about that too is Rocket saw this and created an in-house credit department called Credit Upgrade.
Okay.
And so even if somebody has, let's say, a 640 credit score, but I can get them a better rate at 660, I put them into our free program and they look at it and they say, okay, for $1,500, you can pay down this balance and we can get you a 661. A lot of people don't understand it's called low level pricing adjustments, LLPA. And that depends on, you know, how much you're putting down, what your credit score is, what your debt to income ratio is, what program you're on. And if people aren't understanding how those work and how you can use those, and, you know, manipulate is probably the wrong word, but that's what I'm going to use, how to manipulate those to get you a lower interest rate. If I could put you into a credit upgrade at no cost and in 30 days have you 20 points higher and 0.25% less in interest rate, that's where getting a true professional is extremely important right now.
I'm going to have to do that.
Well, Justin, why don't you talk about,
I didn't know that's what it was.
I mean, me and Justin are self-employed, right? And we've talked about investing in real estate, things like that. Why don't you talk about that a little bit? Because, I mean, you've had a journey with that yourself.
Well, when it comes to credit, it has been the biggest piece for me.
Yep.
And, you know, I've had people like work on my credit, but because of how business is, it's like it can be up and down. So, all right, you may not get paid, you know, for 2 weeks or a month, but now you have bills that are behind.
Right.
When you get paid, you go back and you pay those, but you have those lates.
Or the credit limit goes higher, right? Because when you're running credit, your credit goes higher.
Yep. Yeah. And so that's been my struggle for years. It's just like, all right, I'm just always paying something back versus like building the credit. And so figuring out, you know, what you said, Rocket, mortgage,
Credit Upgrade.
Credit Upgrade. There was something else.
Rocket Money.
Rocket Money.
Yep.
Those two things, you know, if I was watching this right now, I would, you know, be researching that right now to sign myself up for that. Which I'm gonna do after
you're done.
It's amazing. There's people that I run into that are like, oh my gosh, I love Rocket Money. It's amazing. And it is. It's because nobody has ever said, hey, do you know where your money's going every month? And what happens is Rocket Money will tell you at the end of the month, did you realize you spent $300 on coffee? And you're like, well, shoot, if I got a Keurig, I could spend $50 on coffee and bring it in a coffee mug and not go spend $8 a day at Starbucks. Now, Starbucks, there's an experience around that, right? So there is something about going into a coffee store, getting your coffee and being part of the group.
Yeah.
You know, and there's nothing wrong with that. Not every day, right? But what happens is before you know it, you don't know where you've really spent your money. And that's what Rocket Money really helps you do.
Well, I also think too, on your phone, anytime someone's like, oh, I have found this great app. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, this app is $9 a month or this and that. And you do that and then you forgot that you got it. Or you get a brand new phone and after 90 days, was it Apple Music or something's charging you this or that? Yeah. So to your point, there is a lot of times subscriptions. I will tell you that I think it was 2 years ago that my CPA for real estate called me. He's like, Pam, do you know how much money you're spending on subscriptions? I'm like, no, why? He's like, yeah, Pam, I'm going to send you a spreadsheet. And I'm like, okay.
That's a good challenge. And I would say in the comments, go to Rocket Money, put your information in, okay? That's free to use. And in the comments, just tell us, oh my gosh, I found X amount that I didn't know. And I guarantee those comments will be like boom, 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 boom. Because that's why apps are $9.99. That's why apps are $18.99. Because a lot of times you're like, I'm not going to notice it.
It's fine because I'm almost like, if it's not free, I'm not trying it anymore. Because I'm just like, and now it's yearly. You're not even paying monthly. It's like, oh, okay, well, the subscription this much. And then it's like, yearly, it's $200 something. And I'm like, do I really feel that strongly about this to pay $200? Right. So, yeah, to your point, here's another kind of question for you. Why do you think people are so scared to talk to a mortgage person? Because, I mean, you have a conversation, you don't have to do anything.
Yeah. People in the industry are desperate at times. And so if you've ever gone to a lake and taken a piece of bread and thrown it in the water and watch all the fish attack it, that's a lot of times what it feels like when you say, hey, I have a question about a mortgage. All of a sudden people are like, paycheck, transaction, paycheck.
Yeah.
They don't think of it as like, hey, let me just answer your questions and help you without the pressure, without the spam, without, you know, whatnot. And, you know, unfortunately, that's the bar to get into our industry is not super high. And a lot of people think every mortgage person's the same. Every real estate agent's the same. Oh, they say, they have the realtor R, so they're no different than the other person at discount mortgage or discount realtor company that, has the realtor R. And there's a huge difference. That's a whole other podcast you can talk about on that.
Right.
But same thing with mortgage, right? And so one of the things that's really good is, one, you're getting to understand my personality. And that helps people say, you know what? Yes, I like this guy.
Yeah.
I want to talk to this guy. When you put something online, a lot of people can't distinguish that there's a person behind that text.
Right.
They just think it's text and I'm just going to boom, go right at it. And they don't understand it's an actual person. They would never do that in person.
Right.
Well, you say that, but I remember my first mortgage, and I've talked about this a couple of different times in general, was I was afraid of the judgment. I was afraid of going to the bank and then them judging me. And I realized, though, in general, like I told you, I have a CPA. I don't think my CPAs appreciate me at all, because I know how much money I got in the bank. I know how much money I'm spending. I don't want to know anything else. I know that.
Yeah.
Quit laughing at me, Justin. I'm just saying, like, when you're self-employed, I have to go out there and hustle. Like, I have a job to do. I don't have the ability to watch every penny that's going out the door. But my CPA was like, do you know you're doing this? Or do you know you're doing that? But to your point, when you start with a mortgage, you're like, hey, did you know you're spending this much money? Or why do you have this medical bill? Or, oh, by the way, why is this? And it's like, do I really have to make these phone calls to get my credit cleared away, right? So, yeah.
So much of it is self-perception. We are the hardest on ourselves than we ever need to be. And we need to realize, too, that it's not just Chad that is in this situation. There's a world of people that are in the same situation, same journey. And that's where, if you take it to like a spiritual level, we're here all designed to help each other out and help us get through this journey. And every person that you interact with, there's a reason why I'm here today. Yeah. There's a reason why our paths crossed, months ago. There's a reason our path is going to cross. And, if you look at it as I'm intentionally supposed to meet people and help people, it could really change how this whole industry is when you go at it as like, my job is to leave you in a better position than I found you.
I agree.
And I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I think that like when it comes to me and other people that I know that would like to buy a house, or people whose parents never bought a home, when you're looking at, all right, buying a home is here, in your mind there's like
a big gap, right?
This barrier, and granted, some of those barriers might not even be there,
right?
But in our mind, it's like
the perception.
Yeah, so you have to remove
and the commitment.
Anxiety of it. But having somebody like yourself or like Pam to like walk you through it, all right, that's not a barrier. This is a barrier that we can get through. This is how we do it. But I think it starts with like having the conversation first, because if you never have the conversation, you never know that like that's a possibility.
But even when you're talking about it, I get that anxiety and stress, because to your point, if you don't know any better, and you're starting that process and you're just like, I don't even know where to get started. And then, by the way, when I use the word commitment, I did get married. I committed to doing that. Buying a house is a commitment, and it can be very stressful for people that are struggling with commitments. Am I going to be stuck in this home? How am I going to get my money back? Things like that. And I think those are a lot of fears too. And I think some of that is fear driven, right? Yeah, so absolutely. Yeah, I agree with you on that. But I want to go back to, the mortgage conversation, is that credit can be overcome. The down payment can be overcome, right? That's what you're saying. Like, it's worth having a conversation up front to get there. And it doesn't mean that you get a mortgage, right? Like, the conversation can be 6-7 months beforehand. Yep. Justin, your journey's been going about 2 years now, right? That you've just been like
20 years.
But no, I'm just saying in general, like, right? Yeah. And I have seen some of the stats, and sometimes me and Justin will have these conversations about diversity. It does sadden me that there is such a change in I'm going to say wealth based on owning a home. Because when you look at the demographics, which I hate looking, you know how I feel about demographics, but they really do show that poverty is kind of to certain, I'm going to say classifications. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that some of these people bought homes early on, which I wish I would have done. But they bought homes, and to your point, they started able to hop, right? Like you said, they hop. So how did that person get that $1 million home? They didn't start there, right? It's okay to start off with a $150,000 home. It's okay to start with a fixer-upper if you can fix it up, right? And I think that's the problem, is people just don't know how to get started.
Correct. Yeah. And that's where, I think Rocket, they designed a program called 1+. That is where you put 1% down, Rocket will give you 2% down. There's no mortgage insurance. That is not a moneymaker, but it is one of the bigger products at Rocket because it gets people in the door. And that's, if you look at the mission of
and it
Rocket,
builds on the relationship.
Yeah, it's help everyone home. Rocket has almost an 86, 87% recapture rate. And that's unheard of in the mortgage industry.
What do you mean?
Recapture rate means that if somebody sells their home, pays off their mortgage, or they refinance and pay off their mortgage, 86, 87% come back to Rocket for that next mortgage.
Gotcha.
And so Rocket knows if we treat you right from Rocket Money all the way into helping you with like 1+, where you can get in with 1% down, you're going to stick with us because we've helped you in this journey. We're not treating you like a transaction. And that is really the mission of Dan Gilbert when he started Rocket 40 years ago, was help everyone home. And you look at what he's done in Detroit to rebuild Detroit and the amount of money that's gone back into Detroit. It's amazing when you look at the downtown of Detroit now and how vibrant it is.
We got to experience that a couple months ago. Yep.
Yeah.
So no, I agree with you on that. I think the other part of it too is it's, when we talk about habit forming, it's very interesting because to your point, there is a relationship there, but when people are so accustomed to doing one thing, they don't go out, they don't go away from that. As long as they're being treated well. I mean, there's certain cell phone companies that I've had forever, but the only reason I changed up was because they weren't available anymore, right?
Send my payment to.
Right.
And that's where Rocket, with the acquisition of Mr. Cooper. Rocket has...
Mr. Cooper? We don't even know about Mr. Cooper.
So Mr. Cooper is one of the largest home servicers in America.
Came from Washington Mutual.
And when you look at, Rocket having their mortgage stamp on 1 in 26 homes, that acquisition of Mr. Cooper, which will be closing here in Q4, that's going to be 1 in 6 homes that Rocket will have their mortgage stamp on. Wow.
Yeah.
But that experience of you start with Rocket Money, you go into a Rocket Mortgage, Rocket services your loan, Rocket refinances your loan. You never have to.
Family,
Exactly. And they don't do that because they're gouging and you treating it as a transaction. They're doing it because it's a journey that people.
Well, and they do have the process down pat. The process is pretty quick for them too, when it comes to that.
But
that's all right. So, but my husband got his mortgage payment, and all of a sudden it was Mr. Cooper, and Aaron goes, "Who's Mr. Cooper, and why am I paying him?" Right? And then we did some research, and we found out that they were coming into that. So it's just kind of funny to your point that Rocket's now going to be owning Mr. Cooper, so we're not going to pay Mr. Cooper anymore. We're paying Rocket.
I'm going to have to chat GPT that. Like, who is Mr. Cooper? Is he a real person?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know who he is.
One Mr. Cooper, now with a comedian.
He was? Maybe the comedian knows all the mortgages at this point, or not.
When I first saw Mr. Cooper, and this is going to age me, but there was a TV show called Three's Company, and I think of Mr. Roper. Yeah. As Mr. Cooper. When I think about that, I put those, I'm like, oh my gosh.
You're so definitely funny. Aging us now when you did that, yeah. So, as we wrap up here, networking in Charlotte, I know that you are big into meeting people and building relationships. I think that's, to your point, that's all that you do, right? Is build a relationship.
Yeah. It's our business is a relationship business. And I moved here 2 years ago not knowing anybody. And I feel like I have a pretty good tribe out there. And, I'd love to meet with you. Let's, grab coffee, grab a drink, grab a beer. In Colorado, I had a networking group called Grab a Beer Colorado.
Oh, wow.
And it came from going to a networking event that I just, I didn't like it. It was uncomfortable because it was just all business card pass out.
I hate that.
Stuff like that. And somebody called me and said, "Hey, Chad, what are you doing?" And I'm like, "I'm just leaving another one of these networking groups." He's like, "Well, I'm downtown if you want to grab a beer." And I'm like, How many people just say, hey, man, let's go grab a beer?
Right.
Or,
Right.
hey, woman, let's go grab a beer,
Yeah.
you know?
So, Chad, to sum everything up,
Yep.
let's just use a scenario here. So, Justin's going to want to be buying a home in the near future. What's the first thing he should do?
So first thing I would say is go get Rocket Money.
Yeah.
There's the app.
Yep.
Look for the white box.
How many people reviews on that one?
So this has 244,000 reviews.
Wow.
I think there's a little over 5 million users of Rocket Money.
Okay.
So
It's worth having.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's free. There is a paid version. But everything that I've talked about is free. And then
Okay.
if you move into the mortgage, you get Rocket Money paid version as part of your whole thing to
Okay.
monitor everything. So I'd say start with Rocket Money.
Mm-hmm.
The next thing is to just have a conversation,
Mm-hmm.
right? You can find me just if you were to search on social channels at Rocket Local Chad, or if you're on Google Rocket Local Chad,
Mhm.
rocketlocalchad.com takes you to my main mortgage page.
Okay.
But let's have a conversation. One of the things that Rocket likes to do is one of our what we call an ism is we are the they.
Mm-hmm.
And internally we say it's not their problem, it's our problem. We were going to go. But externally, I think of it as we are the they.
Mm-hmm.
I am part of a buyer agent. I am part of the listing agent. I am part of the buyer.
Mm-hmm.
And so your problems is not the right word, but your challenges are my challenges.
Mhm.
And I take that as a we are the they.
I do too.
And
I
so
feel like it's a team effort.
Yep.
And I tell my clients that it's not just you against me, it's a team. I agree with you on that one.
yeah. And so when you think like, oh, okay, well, I have some credit stuff. Okay, well, we have some credit stuff to work on.
Mm-hmm.
I have, some down payment issues. Okay, well, we have some down payment
Mhm.
issues that we need to work on.
Yeah.
So when you look at that journey and getting that information, all I need is a name and a phone number.
Mm-hmm.
And I have no problem making the phone call, getting you set up. From there, what Rocket wants to do is look at your credit, your asset, and your income. Those are the three main components that we look at when we're looking at a loan approval.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we go out and we say we are the they to a listing agent or buyer agent,
Mm-hmm.
we're not just doing a pre-qualification. Oh, yeah, it looks like it'll probably work. Here's a pre-qualification letter.
Right.
We're saying, no, we are the they. We want to make sure this works for everybody involved. So
Yeah.
when we look at your credit, your income, and your assets, it's actually going in front of an underwriter.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have what's called a VAL, which is a verified approval letter,
Okay.
where the underwriter has looked at your credit, your income, and your assets, and we know that you can get that
Mm-hmm.
property.
Yeah.
Now, the big thing I want to just say for anybody that's looking to buy a home, don't make any big purchases. Don't go change anything.
Right.
That is one thing that we do see. They're like, oh yeah, you should see, I got this great deal on the furniture. No payments till 2025. And I'm like, it still goes on your credit. Now we have to count that payment. Now all of a
Right.
sudden your debt to income ratio has changed, and
It changed the scenario. It does. It changed the scenario.
Correct. Yeah.
So when it comes down to what Justin's doing right now, and he's having that conversation that he's doing all these pieces, is now a good time when it comes down to getting a mortgage, good for him to potentially purchase.
So I always say now is a good time to always talk about a mortgage,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like when you said earlier, you need to plan 30-60. This
Mhm.
isn't something that, yes, can we go get you approved and can we get this thing done in 10
Mhm.
days and you can be in a
Yeah.
house in a week? Absolutely, you can do that.
Right.
But when you look at some of the stuff that I've talked about with One Plus and whatnot, you might be like, you know what? I have this motorcycle that's been sitting in my garage. I can sell that for $3,000-$4,000.
Mhm.
There's your 1% down.
Mm-hmm.
Now, instead of having this, item sitting in your garage, you might be able to go through your house too and be like, you know what, I can have a garage sale and probably come up with
Mm-hmm.
pretty close to 1%. Or like what you said off camera, you're like, so literally my rent in a deposit, like now that's putting real numbers in my head that I can relate with.
Yeah. Cause
So I can do that part. I don't have a motorcycle to sell, but I can, that down payment that you're talking about, that's a doable thing.
Yep.
ASAP.
Yep.
The problem would be, it's like, all right, because of the late payments to my credit,
Mm-hmm.
that didn't happen overnight. So I don't expect it to really change overnight. So
Yeah.
I would have to take a deep dive, you guys looking at it and saying, all right, this is what we need to do to get it to
Mhm.
this point. That's the biggest piece to.
The one thing that I would say, just what you just said, I think a lot of people will say that I need to take a deep dive. No, we need to take a deep dive.
Right.
This isn't you're on your own on this.
Mhm.
This is hey, I have some late payments. Okay, no, we have some late payments we need to work with, right? That's the difference of the mindset. And that's the mindset shift is like, you know, you're not in this as me against the lending world. Yes, a lot of banks, a lot of places will be like, oh, you have a late payment? No, don't want you.
Right.
Because they just want the easy layup transactions.
Right.
And this is not just a transaction.
Well, and to your point, you have a whole entire department that's dedicated to looking at his credit and seeing what they can do with it. So for a first-time home buyer or someone who's going to be buying, you know, you have people on the team to help.
Yep. Yeah, that credit upgrade. I mean, we could have somebody that is a 700 credit score, but if I can get them to a 740, it's a quarter percent better in interest rate. I'm putting them in credit upgrade. So it doesn't mean that just because you have to have bad credit. No, we look at everybody. How can we help everybody get to that next tier during the purchase?
So the other part too is that the Fed has brought up the fact that they're going to do 2 cuts this year. They have not done any cuts this year. It's funny because they're like, we're going to do 2 more cuts, but they didn't really do any cuts this year that I'm aware of. So does that help him in the scenario where he's looking now and then the interest rate might potentially go down based on those conversations, right?
Yep. So that is the hope. We've been hoping this for a while. And especially the people that sold their database, you know, marry the home, tape the rate. They're begging for it. Because they have egg on their face. But, you know, the Fed lending rate is different than, you know, we did see when they lowered it a half, interest rates actually went up. So, you know, there's not a direct correlation on that. What I would say to anybody is quit watching the news. The news is out there to do nothing more than sell fear.
Got it.
In every scenario, right? These weather storms are going to be the end of the world. These, you know, political changes are going to be the end of the world. And, you know, oh, you're never going to be able to buy a home. You know, the rates are just... Talk to somebody that really has your best interest in helping you make that scenario. That's what I
It's all comes to people that watch the news. I talk to people, 'cause I don't really watch the news about that, but I've talked to people who have watched the news. And it just makes it even more harder for me to be like, all right, let me go and take the step.
Well, I think keep going with that because I think what happens is when people do hear from other people about this, they're like, let me pause what I'm thinking about doing. Like, because a lot of people are like, maybe I need to store up money. Maybe I need to do this and that. And it ends up costing more money in the end because they keep waiting. And waiting in real estate is never a good scenario. I don't even know when there's a good scenario of waiting in real estate because real estate keeps going up. I haven't seen in my lifetime real estate go down. So stock market might go up and down, but if you're holding real estate, unless you really bought something crazy, extravagant, or you didn't do your research, most real estate goes up.
And then what I would suggest too is take a minute, at the same time that you feed your TikTok or you feed your other stuff. Go into Rocket Money, click on reviews, and just go through there. And you'll have testimony after testimony after testimony of like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize I had these subscriptions. You know, thank you for, you know, you just saved me. You know, it doesn't have to be that much. $80 to $100 a month can make a big difference.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, definitely want to thank you for being a part of this episode. I learned a lot. So if I'm learning, I guarantee you that the people that are watching are
absolutely
out of this. Definitely. All the links that he's talking about, we'll put them in the description. So click on them, utilize them. If you're looking to get into a home, you're looking to get a mortgage, you can connect with Chad. We'll have
local Chad.
Rocket Local Chad.
Rocket Local Chad. We'll have his links in the bio as well. But man,
here's my challenge, and I'll say it again. We said it earlier. Go to Rocket Money, put in your information, and in the comments, tell us what subscriptions you forgot about, how much it saved you, and Rocket will actually go renegotiate if there's a cheaper subscription out there for you. So just that's my challenge to people, and this will be fun to watch in the comments.
That would be awesome.
How many people have saved you know, a few bucks here or there?
That's all.
Well, I appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks, Chad.
You got it.
Keeping it loco.
Loco.